It's time for, hello, a Jersey Shore recap podcast.
Hello.
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 Hello, we're
Um,
back.
Hi. My name is GWOW.
And my name is Cookie, and we're Cookie and GWOW.
We sure are. We recap Jersey Shore. We're all the way into season 4. Thank you for listening. This is episode 6. It's called Fist Bump Push-Up Chapstick, which should ring a few memories in people's minds, I think.
This was an iconic moment, an iconic clip.
Yeah, we're really into like the meat and potatoes of season 4. That's for sure. There's a lot in, I feel like, last episode, this episode, the next couple episodes. So
I'll say this, the last 2 episodes were really pretty dark, and it was pretty just negative overall. But this episode was actually just more fun and lighthearted. Like there was some tense moments. Of course, there kind of always is, but for the most part, it was just like a fun episode. So I was excited to watch it, and I'm excited to talk about it.
I agree. My only happy moment, which it's not even a happy moment, so I shouldn't even say that, but the part from the last episode that sticks with me, despite all the darkness, is the whole Long Island. Goodbye. That's at least so iconic. But if you remember the fist bump push up chapstick, that's gonna get very iconic as well. So we should dig into it.
Well, it kind of starts off with Mike still in his neck brace, feeling a little sorry for himself. And to be honest, he is sort of just like moping. And he's kind of sitting around just like moaning, like,
And it's coupled with this like pretty Italian music, which I just think is such a weird like things to combine. And the guys are kind of making fun of him. Like they're like, oh, Mike is all like wow wow wow, because he is. He's being a baby about it.
For sure. And I think they were feeling like bad at first and then were concerned. And maybe he liked that because he's definitely milking it at this point and it's sort of not working anymore. Like everyone's had their fill. They're ready to move on and go about their lives. So it's about the end of this. This is kind of the last of moping sad Mike in this
This is like
episode.
a thing that straight guys do where they really want to be babied more than you would think that they do. And they'll and I've had this with ex-boyfriends. Like they'll milk something and they're like, "Please, can you do it for me?" And you're like, "What are you, 5? Oh my God."
Aw. Well, I wonder
No, don't
too,
all of
like,
them.
aw, no, I wonder too, though, like, if he just like did he have his painkillers? Was he in pain or was he, I wonder what the situation was. So
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of not fucking knowing what the situation is, Ron gets up to wake up Sam to tell her that he loves her no matter what. And I know we're back on their train for a little, this like crazy train that they're on, and this up and down roller coaster, I really should call it. But I'm ready to be done, number one. And number two, I just don't understand. It's very dramatic, it's very toxic. Hey, I just want to wake you up so we can talk. I love you no matter what. Like, oh my God, leave her alone. She's
what
sleeping.
I'll remind you what happened at the end of last episode. Ron had gone out to the club with the boys, and on the way back, he was thinking of Sam, so he bought her roses. But she was confused because she thought they were fighting, so she sort of didn't know how to react to the roses and was like questioning it. And so
Right.
his response was like, "Well, fuck you for questioning it," and he threw them in the trash. And that was what they went to bed with. And so he woke up, I guess, feeling guilty.
Good
Um,
fucking Lord.
there is a moment back to Mike for a second.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment where Ron pulls Mike aside as well. I think this is the episode of Mike like trying to redeem himself. Or no, sorry, Ron. I think this is the episode of Ron like trying to make himself look better because he had that moment with Sammy where he was like, "I love you, let's talk," and then he pulled Mike aside, and I guess he just felt a little sorry for him, and he just wanted to give him a little pep talk. But I'll be honest, I mean, Ron looked kind of good in this moment. Like he gave him decent advice of just like, "I'm here for you if you need to talk, but also you kind of need to get up and live your life and go out again and not sit in the house." And yeah, it was a nice friend talk.
Yeah, and Mike at some point like threatens to go home. I think Ron ultimately convinces him in this moment that's not a good idea, but Mike's still throwing himself a little pity party. But I do think you're right. Ron does come off looking okay in this
Yeah.
moment. And the girls are kind of having their own moment where they go out to lunch and debrief the whole Ron versus Mike versus the wall fight and kind of like what happened. And afterwards, they decide to go shopping. And this, we get one of our first little funny moments of the episode where a priest tells Snooki to cover up. And to be honest, what she was wearing out of what I've seen people on Jersey Shore wear to clubs was not that bad. Like she had on a dress that, yes, showed a lot of cleavage, but like it was still a pretty respectable dress.
Yeah, it wasn't anything. She wasn't wearing lingerie or anything. Yeah, it was just like she was mostly covered up except for the cleavage, like you said. And who is he to just shout at her? Like she wasn't even going in the church. She was just walking
Right.
past it. Yeah, the gall. But then she says, this is what was funny. She said, God made my tits. And Jenny said, God didn't make mine. I thought that was
Yep.
funny.
It is so funny. And we're going to be doing that again at the cookie quote, but it'll be a bit
Oh
longer
shit.
and more of what Snooki's going to say. But
Okay.
once Nicole gets back from their little day, she goes to call Gianni. And we've kind of seen, we start to get this like deja vu. We're like, okay, we know she's going to call Gianni. We know that something's going to happen. Like she's going to say something funny and raunchy and he's going to get mad, which is really frustrating because I truly don't feel like she's doing anything that bad. Like I can understand if he's kind of like, it annoys me that you go out to the club and get wasted and this and that and act like this, but like she's just saying things like I want to suck your butt and she's just like being funny and cute and like that's exactly as that's exactly how I would take it, as like funny and cute. So I don't understand what is he has up his ass about this, and it breaks my heart when she's like, okay, I'm trying to change. Like I think we all collectively were like, don't you try and change Snooki, she's
Yeah.
Snooki.
Yeah, no, exactly. And my take on it is I think he might be a little bit maybe more comfortable with that kind of stuff in real life, which is why she felt comfortable doing it. I think like my guess is that he just hates that she's famous and has attention and that she's doing a TV show. Like, I think knowing that she's on camera saying these things is bothering him. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, so like if they were at home and she said something, you think he'd just be like, "Ugh, stop," and they would be like a little
yeah,
eye roll, and they would end. But
that's
because
what I
there's a
think.
camera, he's like, "Cut it out! Like this is getting recorded."
Yes, and I think that because she's so comfortable talking to him that way, and she seems taken aback by his response every time. So I think we might be seeing a different side of him than she sees. And I don't know, that's kind of a thing though in real life too. It's not just on reality TV where sometimes these guys will be like sweet behind the scenes, but the
Mm.
moment he's around his friends or your friends, he's kind of an asshole and he's like embarrassed. And that's just like I kind of, I guess I sort of can understand. No, I can't. He's actually just an asshole in this moment. I don't know what I'm saying.
I think I mentioned either in the last episode or 2 episodes ago. I forget because this kind of like phone call with Johnny has happened similarly a couple times now. But in the news with current day, there's been those rumors about whether or not Nicole and Gianni are still together and all that. And I think she'd already dispelled a lot of those rumors from her Instagram having like family day posted where they were all in Disney. She further made me really believe it because the picture, like you could go, out to Disney as a family and not, and that could be all for pictures, and you could still hate that guy, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that doesn't like totally sell me personally. But on her podcast, the Meatball Pod, which I am a regular listener of, like the episode they put out recently, she had mentioned about her and Gianni like hooking up and something like awry happening, and that she was like, oh, we know we were doing this the other night and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, so there's just like a regular husband and wife, it seems to me. So I'm on board now that they are still together and just fine. So it must work for them in today's world where he just stays out of the camera, and most of the time she's just like a regular suburban mom, and then her job is to just go act crazy on a TV show once a month or however much it is, you know.
And I think that's fair. Maybe they found that balance of figuring out like I'm comfortable with you doing this, but I don't want to do that. Maybe at this point they've been together for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. She's been on TV for a long time. So I would hope that if they're still together, they've figured out how to have her career, but also be happy with each other. So it's good to hear. I hope that's true. I hope the rumors aren't true then. Um,
Yeah. In
but who
this
knows? We'll see.
moment, I think there's definitely a little adjustment into like who she is and who he wants his girlfriend to be and what's happening. And it definitely feels uncomfortable as the viewer because we love Snooki so much and who she is as a character, as a person, like as a crazy person who's doing all this fun stuff. And so it's hard to watch, I think, even though I think things turn around. Even I even think even in their spin-off show Snooki and JWoww, I think Gianni gets a better edit, although I don't know, we'll have to get there when we get there. But in any case, Nicole does vent to Ron about it, which is the second time that Ron kind of comes off looking okay in this episode, because he's giving her good advice, like don't change for somebody, like you should be
Yeah.
yourself with the person that you're
I
dating.
I actually appreciated him for that in this episode because he was kind of the first one to stand up to her and say like he's trying to change you and that's not okay. And this is one of those moments where it's like I guess I can kind of see because I've said in past episodes I don't get why everyone seems so close to Ron, but there must be
Right.
more moments like this off camera where he's like a good friend and we're just not seeing it maybe because the drama's more interesting or there's just too much drama to get through. But I guess I can kind of see in this moment, like, oh, I see why they're kind of close. Like, it seems like they really do care about each other.
He's definitely not being a bad friend so far in this episode, so I'll give him that.
Yeah.
um but a beauty salon randomly opens up in the house because Ron's getting a haircut, and Polly's like, "Oh, Dina, you can style my hair." Which, if you take Polly's actual haircut and what like the hair he needs to have a blowout, he does kind of look ridiculous when like his hair's not in the blowout. And so Dina's able to put it into this weird faux hawk, and he has a whole other alter ego which we'll get into, but just the dynamics of Polly's hair continue to astound me, and there it's like Polly's hair is a mystery never to be fully understood.
It does have such a bizarre shape. I almost feel like all the styling and hair drying and all the product and everything from over the years, it's made it stick in this weird kind of shape. It kind of almost wants to be a blowout even after he's washed it. Do you know what I mean? Like it had this weird mushroom
Yes,
shape to it.
it
So in the
knows to
past
go upward. Yeah.
no, it does. He's trained. I think he's trained it that way because
Yeah.
he fully watched it and it still was going up. And we've made
Mm-hmm.
fun of him in the past for like going into the pool and the beach with his blowout all gelled and everything. But I get why. Like he sort of doesn't have an option. He looks ridiculous without it. I feel like that's you have to kind of commit to when you have a extreme hairstyle because you have to do
Yeah,
it. Otherwise, you look ridiculous.
it's a high maintenance hairstyle for sure, that
Yeah.
is for sure. um
But I thought it was a sweet moment that he let Dina touch his hair because I feel like that's like for him, that's a big deal. Like he
it's like
really
some
he really trusted
trust,
her. I
right?
almost thought she was gonna cut it, but that would have been too much.
Well, I think that no, yeah, I don't think he would trust just anybody to cut his hair, but I think he gets this faux hawk and he feels like a different person, because I don't even think he looks that different, but it is just it's a different vibe. And this launches him into a character at first called Joey D. And then Vinny is very much like, I want to play dress up too, and goes and puts on like matching outfits where they have on like these Italia sport jersey kind of things with then sweatbands, and then they call themselves Louie and Tony, and they're in the confessional doing these crazy voices like, I'm gonna fist bump till my fucking arm falls off. And they and I don't know where the chapstick comes into play, because then it's whole like, do I have enough chapstick on Louie? Do I have enough chapstick on Tony? And that's where this whole fist buck push up chapstick thing gets born. It's very silly, but I have to be honest. Something that I have like an ick about is men putting things on their lips, which like I know it
Really?
needs to happen for just for like men to not have chapped lips, but I don't like watching it. I don't like talking about it. I just like I don't know what it is about me, but I'm like, ew, why are they just so much talking about chapstick? It's such an ick to me.
Yes, you better support toxic masculinity. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I get what
Is
you're
that what it
saying.
is?
I
Is
don't
it learned
know.
toxic masculinity? Because I'm like, what are you putting on your lip gloss, girly? Like, I don't
They say
know.
they say that even those of us who are like trying to, get away from certain stereotypes and stuff, it's in us a little bit, and it totally makes sense to have a little bit of an ick sometimes. Um, but I will say that I like men applying chapstick because they often have chapped lips, and it's like put it on, babe. You gotta put it on.
I definitely don't like seeing them do it. I don't know what it is. It feels like a personal problem for sure, but
That's so funny.
and so there's always something that's simultaneously funny and ick worthy about this scene because when just like the constant reapplying of the chapstick, I'm like, okay, stop though. Okay, stop.
Well, and he was going because he was going hard too. It was the little like the kind with the pot where you have to swirl your finger around and then rub it with your finger,
Yeah.
which I kind
Oh
of
my
get what
god,
you're saying
stop.
because I kind of get what you're saying because I feel that way in general. That like applying chaps like that kind of lip balm with your finger looks weird. It's worse than like a
Yeah.
stick. I get what you're saying because in general, I'm like, ew, stop doing that.
I guess like I think just like other people have better finesse when they put it on, and that's why it doesn't bother me when like women do it. I don't know. It's still a really funny scene. It's a really
Do you
iconic
wanna
moment. It's very memeable, and so it's hilarious.
do you want to hear a little bit of it in case anyone hasn't seen
Definitely,
it in a while?
please, please.
Let's listen.
Buddy, yo, do I got enough chapstick on Louis? Dude, do I have enough chapstick on Tony?
You need a lot of chapstick, bro.
Oh, Louis! Louis, you're gonna get all the girls. I'm gonna fist bump till my arm falls off. Fist bump like this, Louis. FPC. It's fist bump, push-ups, chapstick. Fist up, push-ups, chapstick. Fist up, push-ups, chapstick.
My favorite part is that they're kind of like playing exaggerated versions of themselves. And Dina makes fun of
Yes.
them a little bit because like they're running around saying they're in costumes, but that's their clothes. That's
Right.
the clothes that they brought.
Right.
I wonder if they're
Right.
self-aware of that or if they really think that they're playing something different.
It's like a very meta character. Yeah, living for this campiness that is your own clothing.
Yeah. Well, even the fist pump push-up chopstick is like it's not that different than like GTL or something. It's the same idea. So I think they are. I think they're self-aware. I think they're making fun of themselves a little.
I love it. I
So
love
that
it.
was fun. Should we
Okay.
take a break?
We should, yes.
Can't get enough of hello?
Never.
Well, check us out on social media. We're on Instagram and TikTok at hello pod.
And if you are listening to us, but you'd rather be watching, you can go to patreon.com/hello. There's also going to be tons of bonus content, including bonus episodes and behind the scenes, like how I got my Snooki Pove.
And last but not least, if you're a brand or you just want to give us money, send us an email, a professional email at hellopod@gmail.com.
All right, let's get back to the show already.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
We're back.
We are back, and oh, surprise, surprise. Ron and Sam have to have a conversation about their relationship. And I'll say this, like they're definitely going around in circles, but like they're just talking. They might not be agreeing, but they're not like fighting, I would say. Like maybe they're at most having a light argument, but like in the scheme of what's going on with Ron and Sam, this was pretty just like a conversation, really. But the roommates are acting like they're having a full on like fighting and throwing plates across the room fight. And Vin like goes into their conversation to be, I think he's trying to get ahead of the drama But
Yeah.
he goes in to be like, if you guys are gonna fight though, just like don't do it around us and the roommates because we're trying to have a good time. And they're kind of like, okay, but we're just like talking right now.
Yeah.
Like, are we not
I
allowed to
feel
have a
like maybe
conversation?
I hear you that they were just talking, but I feel like the roommates were probably a little bit like sensitive because the last fight that they had was the big blowout with Mike and hitting his head. And so I wonder if like they must have
That's
been
true.
they must have been like on eggshells waiting for the next fight. So the moment they heard any tension, they were like, oh, here it goes. And so yeah, I think like you said, I think Vinny was just trying to get ahead of it. And I don't know, but I was surprised how well they took it. I thought that Vinny walking in might escalate things or get them arguing with him, but they kind of
Yeah.
just like, okay, yeah, sorry, we'll chill.
Yeah, and I actually feel like from here on in they do chill. I mean, like we'll
Mhm.
get to it later, but like when they go out together with all the roommates tonight, there's no drama with them. They have like a chill night. And I think that's why I remember in my head Italy not being real heavy on Sam and Ron drama because I think that by the end of this episode, we're done with it. And I mean, it is
Mhm.
episode 6, so it is halfway through the season. So, like, my memory wasn't great, but if I'm remembering the season overall, I'm leaving like how the season left me feeling at the end. I feel like it's more heavy on Snooki and Mike drama and
Mhm.
other dramas than it is this. So I guess it makes sense. And they get to a point where they like are ready to give it another go. And I don't know why I do feel optimistic this time. But
Yeah,
why? Why do I feel that way?
I don't know, but the vibe does feel different. Like it's it might be fake or I don't know what it is, but Ron in general feels his energy feels lighter, and I almost feel like, do you think that big blowout with Mike and like them like that primitive yelling and shouting and fighting, do you think that got it out of his system? Because he just seems like lighter.
I don't know. I
I think
don't
he
know
just
what
needed
it
to blow up
is.
on someone. He needed to get it out.
I don't have like an explanation. I don't know what it is. Maybe like there's some sort of thing about how many days they have left, like in
Mm.
Italy, and this whole like once in a lifetime experience. Maybe it was threatened to be taken away if like things didn't like chill out. I don't know. I don't know.
I wonder if they did have a conversation with the roommates because that was a fight. Like that wasn't like a reality
Yeah.
TV like sometimes on reality TV they fight, but it's like
It wasn't
security
like Jenny's
intervenes.
backhanded swing and then the
Right.
walk away when after she did that. That was like an intense moment.
Yeah. So I wonder if they did get talked to. It's interesting to think about. So after that ended surprisingly calmly, um, Ron and Jenny, I'm not sure where they are or what they're doing. I think maybe they go out for a drink or something, but Ron and
They go to
Jenny are kind
lunch
of,
potentially. Yeah.
yeah, but they're sitting at like a little cafe-ish kind of vibe place, and they're just talking about Gianni and Snooki, and they really don't like Gianni. They feel like he's bad for her.
Yeah. Jenny even, I think, like initiates the conversation, or I don't know. They've both heard like Nicole's side of things, and they're kind of like, I don't know that Gianni is the best thing for Nicole. Like he's trying to change her. And it doesn't really go anywhere, but I definitely understand that feeling of like my friend is dating somebody and I see these blatant problems and there's really nothing I can do about it because like at the end of the day people are going to do what they want to do. Like it's
Yeah.
not your life
I've
to have a
been there
say.
though, where you
Yeah.
can watch your friends like degrade and fall apart in a relationship, and it's like there's nothing you could do because sometimes confronting it, and I think there's a confrontation later, we'll talk about it when we get to it, but sometimes confronting it only pushes them further into the direction of their partner. So as a friend, it's a
Mhm.
really tricky place to be. You don't know, kind of have to just wait it out a little. I don't know. But
Yep.
back at the house, Mike and Nicole are talking, and he sort of halfway kind of apologizes, but not really, and she's not buying it.
Well, here's what I think happened because and I don't agree with the way that this happened, but I think that Mike was kind of like because Mike is in this weird moment of like he thinks that there's this love story going on with him and Snooki. And so he's kind of like, I know I owe you apology. I'm gonna make it up to you. So just you wait. I'm gonna do something like a grand gesture kind of something, and I'm gonna make it up to you. And Nicole's like, no, 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 that's not what I want. In fact, I want you just to apologize right now so then we can move on. And he tries, he's like, no, no, I'm going to. So I think he was gonna like, I don't know, write her name from a plane in the sky saying, I'm sorry, Snooki, or like buy her a bunch of stuff and come home with, and then like cook her a meal or take her to dinner. Like, I think he wanted to do something that, like, if they were in a relationship, you might do as like a big apology gesture, but that's not where Nicole is. And so she's like, stop whatever you're talking about and whatever you're doing and say sorry right now. I don't want an apology later. I don't want a gesture. I want you to apologize right now. And so that's why he gives this kind of like half-ass apology. And I think that they're just so not on the same page.
Not at all, because first of all, he won't say the words "I'm sorry," so I don't think he is. I think maybe he thinks he wants to squash it, but I don't think he's sorry. And she even says straight up, like, I want you to apologize for lying. And he won't say those words.
Right.
And from his perspective, he's not lying, so he refuses to say it. But he kind of says like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have told Ron, or I shouldn't have said anything." But he refuses to say that it didn't happen. And
Right.
although I am inclined to believe he's probably telling kind of the truth, so I get where he's coming from. I don't know. What do you do in that situation? Like, what would you do if you were Mike? Like, if let's
Well, I
say,
wouldn't have brought it up in the first place, but if
yeah,
it got brought up, I honestly feel like for the sake of their relationship, regardless of what happened, I would say I apologize for lying and help save their relationship because like
mhm.
but I wouldn't have said anything in the beginning because I'm a much more low-key girl than that.
Yeah. Well, you're not the messy situation. Um,
No.
I think I would too. I think if I, it's hard to put yourself in that perspective because you don't know what was going through his head. But I think if I had a moment where I was like, I'm going to reveal the truth, I think I would eventually have to just be like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm lying. Maybe we would talk off camera, but for the sake of like the cameras, I'd probably be like, you're right, nothing happened, sorry. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I think he could have apologized better, and like we're still not over I know we're still not done with this. So it's like not closure I think that the closure that Snooki needed.
no.
No.
Well, I think that's it for the Mike and Snooki stuff in this episode. So should we take a break and then get to the rest of the episode?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay.
Welcome to Sapphic Survival Guide.
My name is Cheyenne.
I'm Gina.
Class is now in session.
How do you define queer style?
How do you communicate that you don't want to U-Haul at all?
Right, as literally every queer woman I meet hate Geminis.
How do I deal with the most devastating breakup I've ever been through? Sapphic Survival Guide.
We're happy to be queer to answer your questions. Hello.
Hello?
Hello!
Welcome back.
Hello. We are back. We are getting ready to go out to a club called Club 21. And I teased this a little bit earlier, but in this club moment, Sam and Ron are good. They're having fun. They're getting a little messy together. And like there's drama elsewhere, but Sam and Ron are smooth sailing right now. So like, let's just give them a good round of applause. They can last one night.
I know, because that's where it always happens. They have a talk before the club and they like seem okay. And then at the club, they're drinking and they start arguing. So it was kind of surprising to see them the entire night just dancing and having fun and it's all smiles. Ron, even, he was going hard. He was dancing so hard he fell and he sort of hurt his knee. But even then, he couldn't stop himself. He got back up and just kept dancing. And I kind of love that because I love when you're on that vibe of like you're just the music is coursing through you and you just can't help but move. That's like such the vibe. So yeah, they look like they're having a great time. I also love, let me just say this. I thought of this watching the episode. I love that everybody was dancing so hard because I feel like clubs have moved away from dancing. Like people still dance at clubs, but it's not really like there's a lot more like sitting in your section and drinking and getting a bottle. That's kind of more the vibe now. And I miss dancing. I want to dance.
Yeah, I definitely don't do as much dancing when I go out as I used to, but I don't know if that's like age, drinking level, or the
Mm.
club atmosphere. I kind of think it's a combo of all three. I feel like club
Yeah.
culture's changed so much because
Hmm.
even I feel like there used to be like, oh, you go to the club and you make all these friends. And I feel like I hardly ever do that. I just go to the club and I talk to the people I came with, and that's like
Yeah.
it.
Well, that night they were having fun. Let me tell you this. I would love to go back in time and just for one night go to one of those clubs. I don't think it would be like I would like it all the time, but just once I want to experience one of the clubs that they went to in that era. Just to
Yeah,
see.
like Karma in the era of actual Karma, I think would
Yes.
have been sick. I probably wouldn't have picked this particular club because they do get into some drama. It's not Sam and Ron. It's like it's not internal drama, it's external drama because the girls are getting into like honestly drama with everybody and like somebody dumps a drink on maybe Nicole or Dina. I don't know, like a big fight breaks out and the girls like rally together. And then, of course, like I remember this moment from when I watched it before because it was just so funny. Like when I watched it the first time, how Nicole and Dina somehow they are like riding for each other so hard that they end up fighting each other. Like Nicole has a handful of hair, and when she looks at who that hair is attached to, it's Dina.
That is one of my favorite moments of the whole season. I've seen that clip a million times because it's funny because you're right, they were going so hard for each other and somehow the girls they were fighting slipped away. I mean, the club was so packed, and then you add in all the security guards jumping in and the roommates trying to pull them apart. So it must have been really confusing. But at some point, yeah, they were rolling around with each other with Nicole having a handful of Dina's
So
hair.
funny.
But you know what, though? That did kind of release the tension because once they realized they were fighting each other, they just couldn't help but laugh and like they weren't mad anymore. So
Right.
I'm almost like, at least it didn't end with them being angry at each other.
Yeah, so overall the night, like despite some of that drama, it does seem like a success. The girls are really drunk, and when they get home, Nicole very, very, very drunkenly calls Gianni. And of course, again, his vibes are immediately off, and it really like ruins her mood. This time it's almost a little different because Ron actually gets on the phone, like trying to help. Like Ron gets on the phone to try to be like, look, this is your girl who loves you so much and she's just trying to call you and talk to you. And like, it does not go well. He's not receptive to Ron being there at all. He's a dick to Ron and is like, fuck you. And I think at that point, it like involves the house then. It wasn't just
Hmm.
like, oh, Snooki's dealing with this with her man. It like involves the whole house. And it's very, I mean, it's easy as a roommate, as the viewer, as everyone to not be Team Gianni at this point. I'm not Team
No, because it's
Gianni.
like Groundhog's Day. They keep
Yeah.
setting up the scene and it's the exact same every single time. She calls him a little drunk, excited, and I think he was literally saying, like, you say stupid stuff, you're annoying. I think he called her a bitch at one point. Like,
Yeah,
he's
he's like,
being
"What
really
did you
mean.
do?" Like, and she like didn't do anything that whole night. He's like, "What happened?" Like, blah blah blah. And that's when Ron is like, "She didn't do anything, and she just loves you and wants to talk to you." It's
Well,
very
and this is why
frustrating.
I don't know what happens behind closed doors, but this is where it's like he doesn't trust her because she calls him. She's not even really saying anything. You could tell that she's been drinking by her voice. And so he's like, you're bombed. Did you hook up with someone? What did you do? It's like, why are you accusing her of something? I mean, again, I don't know what happens behind closed doors. Maybe there's something that I don't know, but he doesn't trust her and they're not on a good level. So every time she sits on that phone, I'm like, please just don't. Please don't.
I know. Don't even call him. It almost makes me feel like he not even that he doesn't can't talk. It's not even that he doesn't trust her. It's like, do you even like her?
Right.
Like, I had this ex who's I always refer to him as like my toxic ex. And I felt like there were days where I would do something or say something and he would just get mad at every single thing that came out of my mouth. And I'd look at him and be like, do you even fucking like me? Like, why are you dating me if everything I do and say and am like annoys the fuck out of you? And I don't feel like it's quite the same here because they like grow out of it. And it makes me also wonder if like maybe Nicole's really different when it's just the two of them, not just that like he's different,
Mm,
like like she could be different. But in regardless, it's like not a fun time to watch this era of them.
no, not at all. That well, and I've said this before because I agree with you that she's probably different off camera too. Like she's very aware at this point that she's a famous TV star and she has a persona. I mean, she has a whole character, Snooki. Like she's putting it on and being like an exaggerated version of herself. And I think the issue is that Gianni likes Nicole but not Snooki because
Yeah.
that's my take on it because he seems to just he can't stand her every time we see her on camera. And it's like, what are you gonna do? That was a part of her life. That was her career at that's her career. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Anyways,
don't know. I think that the whole house is starting to feel this vibe of like he's not good for you, and it'll come up
yeah.
more in a little bit. But it's definitely like it's starting to seep into the rest of the house. And she's really, really drunk on the phone because this happens. It like totally switches her mood. And they had just had this like fun club night. They came home. She like is totally in a different vibe now and like just goes to bed, I think. And we'll get more into like Nicole. But while this is all happening, Dina, who's also super drunk, she calls Ellis the waiter. Remember Ellis the waiter?
I do remember him. He was from like the first or second episode, right? The waiter she had a little crush on.
Yeah, and the boys kind of like embarrassed her a bit. So like nothing really happened that night. He ended up sneaking out. This time she lets him ring the doorbell for like a long while before she finally lets him in. And she's like in I'm gonna be honest. I love you, Dina, but like she was in no condition to be having company over,
Yeah.
especially like a glass shatters and she just like sits down in it and of course starts bleeding because she's sitting in glass. And I'm like, girl, this is when you should go to bed. You should not be inviting someone to continue the night.
No, absolutely. She should have never called him. He shouldn't have come over because he looked like he was kind of sober or like not on a level. So it was like a weird, I was a little embarrassed for her a little bit. Um, but then they sit down
Mm,
and they start kind of talking and flirting. But Dina notices a hickey on his neck.
yeah.
She's like, "Where'd you get a hickey? Are you seeing somebody?" And he says, "No, I got it from my sister."
I think this is where there's a little bit of like a language barrier because he repeats himself and he's like she's like my sister. And I think what he's trying to say is like, oh, she's not like that important to me. She's just like, someone
Mm,
maybe I like casually hook up with or something. But the fact that it comes out as like she's like my sister makes it feel very weird and incestual. And I'm sure it's not actually his sister, but it doesn't matter. It's already just like weird and off. And so she's just like, I think you should go. And I
yeah.
think that's the correct move.
She got the ick. She kicked him out. She even said like I'm from America, and in America we don't do that. That's gross.
I don't think they do that in Italy either. I think,
Right.
like I said, I think that was a language barrier thing that really did not work out in his favor. And I don't blame her for kicking him out. I think it would have given me the ick also.
You know what though? I don't. It's probably for the best because A, she was very drunk, but B, they don't really have any chemistry. Like, I think she
It was
thinks
like
he's
a
cute.
hookup thing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
she thinks he's cute, but they don't have anything else going on but that, and they've never hooked up. So they've never hooked up. They've like made out, but that was
They
it.
made out. That's it. Right.
So I feel like
So
this is probably the last time we see him, and that's okay.
that is totally fine. Now, Jenny calls Roger, and I want to point out two things. Number one, at this point, and for most of this season, all of the Snooki and JWoww spinoffs, and a very long time, Roger is fun and Roger's dope. And I really like Roger's one of those things where it's like he was great until he wasn't. And like
Hmm.
the way that their divorce was handled, not so great. But like at this point, Roger's a homeboy, you know? So like we're going by this point in time. And so she calls Roger and she's kind of like spilling about Nicole and Gianni and like it's just like talking about it. But she also talks about him coming to Italy, which this is the big conspiracy of the Italy season, is whether or not Roger went to Italy. And it's been debunked, like he was definitely there. There are paparazzi pictures that exist of Roger. But as we know, the show is going to edit like he doesn't make it. And so in this moment, I'm almost like, why even tease that he was coming at all if we're going to have to then like cut that all out? Why even cut it out, in my opinion? But at this point, we know there was plans recorded that he was planning on going to Italy.
Yeah. Well, I feel like maybe he was just kind of boring. Like maybe they just like were in a really good place and they just had a good time, and that's not very interesting. Although I don't know, yeah, because why maybe it would have been too much time to set up that he came in and the introduction and all that just for them to have like a cute date and then send him back. You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like they
Maybe
didn't have to have anything. They could have just been like, oh,
yeah.
Gianni and Roger are here. Maybe it makes Gianni look worse because he leaves and Roger stays. I don't know.
It's you're right. It is weird that he and Gianni were there at the same time, but he got edited out. Like it's so weird. It makes you think like you don't know what you're watching when you watch reality shows. Entire people are cut out of moments.
Yeah. Well,
It makes
that's
me
definitely the name of the game.
this is sort of a little bit off topic, but it makes me think of like RuPaul's Drag Race when with certain redacted queens. It's so crazy to me that entire queen's existence can be edited out because the Sherry Pie incident from season 12, that was harder to edit out because she was a front runner. But on Drag Race UK, there was a queen who went home early who also was same deal, just qualified and edited out. This was so seamless. You don't know that entire queen was there until you go online and see that she was there. Her entire existence was edited out. That is wild to me. Reality TV is crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it's really crazy the way that you can make it seem like something did or didn't happen. I've seen things in I don't know if it was Love is Blind or The Ultimatum or what, I think it was Love is Blind, where somebody caught that like these two people were having like lunch and they caught that it was actually from two different scenes that they like could tell the line down the middle. It's actually fucking crazy because it was like a entirely reproduced scene, not even just like, oh, they edited out someone. It's like this didn't happen, this conversation didn't happen, but they've produced it to make it look like, I don't know, just absolutely wild.
True. But anyways, though, the next morning, Jenny and the roommates are sort of filling Nicole in on what happened the night before because she doesn't really remember the conversation she had with Gianni. She was like pretty drunk.
No, wait, let me say something before you get too deep into that.
Okay.
I do want to point out, because I ride for Jenny for sure. She's one of my favorites. I love her, but I just don't think she's being the bestest of friends in this episode because it's one thing. Okay, she's on the phone with Roger talking about Nicole and Gianni, and that's your man's. You're allowed to like gossip and kiki with your man's. Like, no worries there. But then she goes to lunch with Dina and Ron, and she's already talked to Ron about it. Now she's talking to Dina and Ron about it. And if I were Nicole, I'd be like, wow, that's a lot of people that you were talking to about it without talking to me. And so when they do get to Nicole, I feel like Jenny has rallied these people about it. Like it wasn't just Jenny sitting down with Nicole and being like, hey, I wanted to like point something out friend to friend. It's like Nicole immediately feels attacked. And I'll let you get into it, but I don't agree with like the way that Jenny kind of set this up to be like, hey, a bunch of us were like talking and think this, because I would definitely feel a little bit put on the spot with like the way I think it should have been a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, because at the lunch or whatever, when she was talking to Ronnie and Dina, like you mentioned, I think was Sam there too? Because
I don't remember.
I feel like there was more roommates, but they even toyed with the idea of having like some type of intervention where the whole gang talks to her. And I think they sort of did. They never really, like, it wasn't an official intervention, but they kind of did. And like you said, in the way that Jenny kind of got the whole group to talk to her.
Yeah.
So I can see what you're saying about her feeling a bit cornered, and she definitely did. She's kind of like really baffled by it and put off by this like intervention thing. She feels like she's thrown out of left field.
Yeah, and like you said, she doesn't really remember, or she claims that she had blacked out the night before. So she's like, I don't remember what happened. I don't remember what I talked to him about. And they're like, well, he really upset you, and this is what happened. And they're trying to give her some tough love. And they even kind of say, like, we were thinking about having an intervention, and that word
Right.
like triggers her. And maybe they did like mean it as just like, we just want to have like a sit down talk. But I think that word really sets her off, and then she starts just like hardcore defending Gianni, which is where the episode leaves off, and they're like walking to their pizza shift, and Nicole's just like, no, that's the guy I want to be with, that's my man, and you guys aren't being very nice about it. And that's just like that's where the episode ends off. And I don't
Yeah.
think it's the end of like that conversation. I think we're going to talk more about it in the beginning of the next episode, but I do feel like the intervention aspect of it made it not as receptive from Nicole. Like I think if Jenny and her had just gone to lunch, the two of them, maybe I think it just could have gone a little better.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and the approaching it differently too, like you said, the intervention words that are off, and I think it's because you associate intervention with like a drug addict, like somebody who has a real problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think treating it that
Especially in
way,
this time period too.
yeah, and I think setting it up that way is going to automatically make her defensive, whereas if you just kind of approach it like, I don't know, just like, yeah, like at a private lunch, maybe just talk about how do you feel?
Yeah.
Are you, but I agree. She didn't handle it
Like
best. I think she met,
honestly, the way Ron did, where he was kind of like, you
yeah.
shouldn't change
Oh,
yourself
yeah.
for somebody. And it is like more of a supportive moment, whereas like Jenny comes in a little hot, which I understand, but it wasn't matching the energy that Nicole was gonna be able to take in.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about this more next episode because it kind of picks right up after this leaves off. So for now, do you want to start wrapping things up?
Yeah, let's do our cookie quote.
I could do JWoww.
Yeah, I'll be Snooky.
Okay.
All right. The priest was like, cover up when you come to my church. He basically just called me a whore. Did you hear what he told me? My church, they'd be like, oh, nice outfit. God likes my tits. God made my tits. Like, what are you talking about?
God didn't make mine.
But end scene. There were so many moments I could have picked, but that one just like really cracked me up just because it is very like Vatican-esque, and they're in Italy, it's like a whole thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that scares me. I feel like my worst nightmare would be to be in the Vatican. Oh,
So I
God.
actually have been to Italy, and I saw like the Sistine Chapel and all the things, and there is a dress code that is very strict, and it's
Mm.
more than just like your average what are you wearing like to church outfits. Like you can't show shoulders, you can't show midriff, and so for like most of Italy, I was wearing maxi skirts with like a little crop top, because you also, I think there's like things about women wearing pants in certain churches and stuff. And we were doing like a hardcore like thing of like museums and churches and stuff. So I'd wear these maxi skirts, my little crop top, and then in my bag I had a scarf. So then anytime we had to go into these things where I had to be modest, I would then just wrap the scarf around myself, and that was my modesty, because I was like, I'm not sacrificing my outfit just for these like men who don't know how to like not nut by seeing a woman's shoulder. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Well, that's fun. I want to go to Italy, actually.
Well, we're not done being in Italy with these guys, with the crew. So we're halfway done the season, and you should continue following along. But I think for now, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hello.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. If you want more of the podcast, you can follow us on any social media at hello pod.
We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/hello. We've got a video feed there so you can see our beautiful faces while we recap Jersey Shore. And we've also got a little bit of behind the scenes bonus content for you.
And you can find me anywhere online at The Libregina, including my website, thelibregina.com.
And you can find me online on TikTok and Instagram at angel.iconic.music.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.